Hey, everybody. So, full disclosure, I am not good at chat during these things. So, I can't promise I'll be paying attention to all the witty banter that is happening in the Slack channel, but you should go there because it's always a good time. But yeah, welcome to ArtSpeak University this week. We are talking about bringing your creative dreams to life. I wish that I could keep all of my big ideas safe and make them as perfect as I want them to be and as I see them all in my mind. But the truth is that I can't do it without collaboration. I need friends. I need other people's amazing skill sets to make that happen. And so I just hope that as we chat through this, that you're going to get some encouragement and inspiration and even boldness to feel like you can collaborate without feeling freaked out about it when creativity meets reality. But a little bit about me first. I have been on the ArtSpeak team for a little over 2 years. I am a strategist, which means I have no shortage of ideas. And also I'm on the writing team, which means I have no shortage of words. But it is fun to collaborate with this team. I remember talking to Jason about this role. And something he said was, you get to dream with the client. You get to think about all the ways that we could creatively communicate their brand. What do they need and how can we bring it to life? And so, before this, I worked as a marketing director for a cloth diaper company. So I sold diapers to very passionate cloth diapering moms and watched them react to things that you wouldn't expect, like detergent or custom prints or whatever. And so even when we were bringing those ideas to life to our clients in the e-commerce world, we were collaborating because people were responding to these ideas, right? And then we would have to adjust and make changes or amp up things because it's like, oh, they responded to that. That's unexpected. But being part of ArtSpeak is truly one of my favorite things, and I am grateful to be a part of this team. And I think about, my work history. So I do not have a degree. I learned through doing. Before this, I was that marketing director, but my boss gave me a chance. She saw potential in me with my skills and talents and abilities. So don't feel like, oh, well, I wasn't trained in X, Y, and Z. If you have ideas, you can help strategize dreams and you can help bring this thing to life. But, dreaming together, dreaming with implies collaboration, right? So we have to think about who are we going to engage with? And sometimes that means in different roles, at ArtSpeak, we have project managers and we have writers, and then we have clients and we have graphic designers and we have the communications director and the pastor of that church. And, you in the community, you might be serving in a church and have a team that's of volunteers, or, your pastor, and you're trying to figure it all out. So, you got to navigate these relationships. And that means some of those challenges can also be got a minute meetings. Like, I'm going to drop this big idea on you right now. Are you ready? Poor communication where the expectations are not set forward at the beginning. And then also shifting priorities. So one week this is our big idea and we're going for it. And then the next week it's something totally different and you have to totally depart. But there's still a lot of strength. Those things, in my opinion, could cause me to avoid collaboration because I, again, want to keep it in my little perfect box and decide when I will bring it out and show it to the world. But collaboration is good because we actually get to do this. We get to reach people with what we're doing. And I'm going to call you out, Kirk, because I don't have the exact stat, but a couple of weeks ago, you said something, the rate of innovation increases as we gather innovators together. And I think I think I have 17, the creative process becomes 17 times more effective. Do you have that stat?
I'd have to look that up again, but yeah, it's an exponential curve. It's
Yeah.
not linear. Yeah.
And so that is exciting to think about, where we can come together with just our part and then bring somebody else's ideas into the mix, right? But how do we lean in instead of leaning away? How do we bring these dreams to life? And I think a good way to start is to prepare to collaborate. And I think the first thing that we can do is pray. A little goes a long way. And sometimes, I'm going to have this conversation and I want to be prepared, and there's concerns that you have, and like putting it in God's hands. It made me think of the scripture, Proverbs 16:9. A man plans his way as he journeys through life, but the Lord directs and establishes his steps. So we get to bring our ideas. We get to collaborate. I think of God chose to collaborate with us, mankind. He knew, all knowing, that it was not going to go into his perfect creative vision. And he still chose to collaborate with us and is still collaborating. So, we glean from that creator and how he made us. And then another thing I think that's important, if we look to the ArtSpeak core values, is approaching these moments with gratitude, being prepared, gratitude for yourself, gratitude for what you have and what you've learned, but also who you're connecting with and the role that you're in. What are you getting to do? How are you getting to serve? And maybe it's really stressful, but I think that this can help turn stressful situations into a positive, where you're realizing like, well, this is a good thing. This is a good thing. And gratitude breeds more gratitude. And it sets the tone of your mindset to be positive instead of just around all the negatives. And we'll get to the why that's important in just a little bit. But I also want to think about another tool in the ArtSpeak toolbox, the communications triangle. I think you can bring this in too. And it's all about knowing who you are and who they are. And it's not about like, oh, I'm trying to reach them with my good ideas and all the things. This is more about feeling confident in who you are. Know what your superpowers are. Like I said at the beginning, I know that I can come with no shortage of ideas and words, and I'm not limited by my education or experience, because I'm choosing to lean into what I do offer. But also know your struggles. So this is important to be aware of, because I think when we're trying to do things in a creative way, sometimes we have blinders on to our bottlenecks, where we could become the bottleneck later. If I want to communicate about a great event and I need a web page, and I'm deciding that I'm going to make it, design it, and all the things, I'm going to be a problem in that, bringing that dream to life, because I don't have all the skill sets I need. So just being aware of, I'm going to need to lean into other people's strengths for that to happen. And then the final thing about yourself is, this is something that Jason says to us often when he on calls, but what do I want? What is important to me? I think it's good to know that. But I also think you should be aware of it and be willing to let it go, in the sense of like, okay, I have an open hand. I hope this will happen. I want this to happen, but I'm willing to let it go. I think you can also come with some seeds of ideas. They shouldn't be something you've spent a lot of time fleshing out, because you're not there yet. You know that you're going to have to collaborate, but coming with just some concepts, or what if we did, and could we do that, I think will help bring some more inspiration when you get into that collaboration step. But yeah, manage your expectations so that you can embrace the beauty of collaboration and choose that this is your creative vehicle instead of putting it all on your shoulders. Okay. So we've prepared, we've thought about it in prayer, we've got some gratitude, we're thinking about, oh, I skipped in the communications triangle. Who are we collaborating with, right? What are they trying to accomplish? Don't go deep on it, but just a little bit of maybe this is where you guys are going to come together on something, or maybe they want something totally different than you do, but just kind of having that in the back of your mind of like, what are their goals? One time we got to connect with a pastor, and I'd only met with him one other time. And I was thinking about like, what is his goals? What does he need? What does he want? And I got that in prayer. And I started doing a little research of some things that he had communicated to his team, but it enabled me when I was with him and collaborating on a meeting to speak his language and speak to his heart of what he already wanted. You might not have that access, but I think you can spend a little time just thinking about the big picture of what you're about to approach. And then, it just gives you a different perspective. It changes the lens a little bit. So now it's time to dream together. So maybe so-and-so comes to you and they say, I need a landing page. This is my big creative idea. Well, we know that is not really the dream, right? They're not really dreaming about a landing page. What do they really want? This is the time to explore the big ideas. Who is this for? What are we hoping the result will be? This is about the heart. So why do you want a landing page? Is it for an event? What does this event look like? What are we inviting people into? Is this Christmas? Okay, we're having this big moment for Christmas. So what do we hope people experience when they get there? Because we know that and in the communications world, that the landing page is a vehicle or a medium that we get to use to communicate the dreams. So it's having that expectation of setting the stage of what do they really want? What is the heart behind this, the big idea? And this is, again, where it's know what I want, but be willing to let it go. That's where you got to let go of some of those methods and some of those expectations and just say, okay, here's our big idea. All right. And then finding out, know what's important to you and ask them, what is important to you in this situation so that you can understand what might be hard for them to let go of. I wanted to give you guys a little personal story. When I got married. So right around the same time that I started with ArtSpeak, I met my husband. So we've been married a little over 2 years. And of course, if we think about it, I've been waiting a long time, many years to find the right guy, and God brought him at the right time. But there was lots of factors I was waiting for. And I had big dreams of what my wedding would be. I for many years, and I'm even a wedding planner on the side. So I got ideas all day long of what I was hoping for. But that's where when I got engaged, when we started talking about our wedding, I had to ask, okay, well, what's important to you? And at the end of the day, it was like, okay, getting married is what's key to us. And for us, we didn't want to wait a long time, and we didn't wait a long time at all. It was like, I don't know, 12 weeks or something like that. But, it was exciting, but I had dreams such as my 12-year-old nephew. He's now 12 years old. His name's Liam. For a long time since he was born, my dream was that Liam would be in a baby tux. Like Liam would be a baby at my wedding in a tux. Well, that didn't happen. He is like basically the size of me. And this is Liam at my wedding right here. But if I would have held on to like, it's never going to happen, this is it. I know that's kind of a silly comparison, but here he is. But now look, okay, so I got Liam, and now I got Stella, and I got my niece Scarlett, and this is Silas. And I still got a nephew and a baby tux. That's Sloan. So it's just, I know that's a silly little thing, but like I had to be willing to let go of some of those expectations, right? So we're dreaming together. We got the big idea. We're getting married, but we got to know things. This is real life in collaboration. What do we need to know to bring this dream to life? What are requirements? What's budget? What is timeline? What are some of the skills, people, and resources maybe that we already have or that we need? This is still not a time to say, and we're going to make this, and we're going to do that, and we're going to do this and this and this. It's what can we do with that? You're making the canvas. Here's our canvas. Here's our boundaries. Here's how we're going to bring it to life. So you know all those things. You're managing expectations. You're getting the pieces together. And then finally, it's bringing it to life. That's when you're creating an action plan on what you can do. Since you spent time identifying the scope and the capabilities in the last step, I find that, when you feel a project starting to go off the rails or you're not really sure how to get there, this is where you can center back to, well, this was our big dream, right? We said we wanted this. And then next step is we talked about what we have, what we can do right now. And then now it's like, if we're going to start changing the scope, we need to go back a step and think about what this looks like, because these were the tools we identified and our goals of what we were going to achieve. So that's where you can recenter. If you feel like in those collaboration moments, in those like, what's happening now, or I've been given a different priority, this is where you can bring it back to, I thought that this was our plan, not in the sense of like the outline, but the big purpose of what it was all for. I think that doing it this way can create some momentum and excitement, because you've gotten the tools to now go and create, instead of deciding I got to create these tools to bring it to life. And this is where fun layers can happen. Maybe you're a writer and part of your big dream before you collaborated was several articles in a series, but then, that didn't make it in the timeline for X, Y, and Z reason, but maybe an email campaign made it in there. So how can you add and get joyful about writing that project and activating that joy that you had with this idea over here into that part of the project? So some fun things back to my wedding. So I knew that what was important to Jesse, my husband, was that we didn't spend a lot of extra money. So tight budget, which is fine. For me, what was important was, I wanted to have a wedding at church. I wanted to be able to bring a lot of my family and friends together. But there was some interesting dynamic with COVID happening at that time. And I had to decide, is it important to me to have the big wedding and all the people there? Or is it more important to me that no matter what the external forces might be, I'm still going to get married on this day? And so for me, that was what was number one. And same for Jesse. We both knew like this is the timing we wanted. But there was other things I was hoping for. I really was dreaming of amazing live music at my ceremony. And I wanted to have, I don't know, which is so silly, but real invitations. Like there's just some textures and things. I wanted really great photos, so did my husband, but he said, yeah, I want like 4 or 5 really good pictures. So that's where we had to make, and we all know that's not how photography works. But that's what I had to, we had to communicate. We had to talk about those expectations. And then because of COVID, I couldn't greet any of these guests because, I didn't want my church to be under fire with okay, all these people are lining up, and what about social distancing? It was pretty strict in St. Louis County, and that's where I live. And so it was like, okay, what can I do? And this was where I went back to, okay, what's the tools in my tool belt? And one of our groomsmen happens to be an Elvis impersonator. And my husband happens to really love Elvis. And somehow by default, people now think that I have the same affinity for Elvis. I don't, but he does. And so it was a creative collaboration, right? And so I thought, I can't do a receiving line, but I still wanted to feel fun instead of just like, it's over. Okay, they kissed. We're out of here. See ya. And so on our exit, Elvis got the mic. He was not dressed as Elvis. That was a rule for me. No. But he sang, because he sang "Don't Be Cruel" from, and the first line is, let's go to the preacher and let's say I do, or one of the lines in there. So it was just a fun texture. And that's where you can take these things. What are the little elements that I have? What can I do with what's in my hand? And then going back to the that Proverbs scripture. So the Lord establishes his steps. I love pairing that with Ephesians 3:20. Now all glory to God, who is able through his mighty power at work within us to accomplish infinitely more than we might ask, think, or imagine. And something that goes back to the big dream for me that makes me emotional. Like I said, live music was important to me, but in the whole plan of our budget, it did not look like we could make that work. And so for me, that was holding loosely. There was other things that were a priority. And so I let it go. And I was like, great, we'll pick great songs. We'll have canned music. And then I had friends, including one on this call, Corey Edwards, who reached out and said, I feel like I'm supposed to offer to play music at your wedding. And then I had another friend who said, I want to pay for a string player to perform at your wedding. And I had 3 other friends who said, I would love to present music at your wedding. So isn't that cool? Like thinking about, like, I was willing to let something that was so important to me go. I was part of our worship team. I love performing. I love music. That was something core to my identity. And to say, like, that's got to take a back seat. I need these other things in this scenario. And then look what God did anyway. So we have a few minutes left here, and a little glimpse of my collaborative dream for this session is I'd love to hear what this inspired in you, or what's been most helpful, or if you have questions.
I think it's good, Libby, that you pointed out churches often think through what we don't have at our disposal. We can dream big, but reality hits us pretty quick that we're pretty limited. But I think when churches really think really what's available within their own body, I think that's just when the power of collaboration and things really begin to take life and exciting.
Yeah, absolutely.
Libby, I'd be interested in hearing your thoughts, or if anyone else does, based off what you say. What are like some of your go-to ways when like I think we've all been, like, we've either worked or volunteered at a church or worked with churches. Like, I know I've been on a few church staffs, and I feel like more often than not, like the teams I'm working with kind of they probably go more towards the dream big side than the, oh, let's just make this, good enough vibe, which is great. But what are some good ways to, especially, whether you have a leadership position or not, to steer a conversation towards, okay, but this is like towards that contraction conversation. This is what we really can do while making it awesome, even if there's others that are like, no, we can do all these things. And then it's like, it's going to be the day before and you cannot do all the things.
Yeah, that's a great question. I think for me, I don't know. There's something about that for me. and my kind of approach. There's something about we dreamed it all up. And now it's like, okay, well, what can we do? And like, okay, here's our plan. And I don't think it always is perfectly that. So I'd be interested to know what other people think. But I think sometimes the big dreamers are actually looking for, they just want the accomplishment of something to come to life. And by going through the whole process of like what could happen and what do we have available, that's where it feels contextualized together. That's been my experience when we've gotten to work with various clients on the ArtSpeak team, and knowing that, okay, I've got the power of an awesome project manager who's going to outline things, and I've got a web builder, and I've got this and I've got that, but also handing over like, also I have these crazy big ideas for video teasers for your campaign. Take them if you want it, but it's outside of the realm of what we can bring to life. Does anybody else have any thoughts along that? I know it doesn't exactly answer what you're looking for there, Andrew.
So something I feel like I've seen you do is help people understand that they wanted more than they initially thought. You're good at helping people see what could be done and maybe dream a little bigger than they had it initially.
Yeah.
Is that connected to sort of your process of starting with the big dream, or how does that work?
Yeah, I would say definitely letting it fill it, like build it out for real without the like constraints first. And then also, okay, so here's timeline, budget, whatever, we can do these things. If you want to do more, this is what we need to do to make it happen. Or maybe we can't because this is the live date. And so for this time around, we can't do it. So yeah, thanks for pointing that out, Corey. I think that's part of my process, is allowing the like full idea to form in that dream big before I start saying like, well, this is what we have, so let's do it. Does that make sense?
I think that's a really like, not everyone has that skill set, but we all could be getting better at that skill set all the time. Because I think of myself, like when I was early on a church staff in like a communications director role, and I got all the big ideas thrown at me, and I was like ambitious and wanted to also like, you know, I'm new on staff, I want to do the things. So I'm saying yes to all of them. But like if I knew one, I think part of it is like it comes from experience. Like there's some little segment of it that can only come from experience. Because if I knew all the things that came with it, then it's like I could have said, well, that'll take this, this, and this. But yeah, the more you're aware of what it'll take, then you can guide the contraction part of the expansion contraction to a place where things actually happen.
Yeah, I know there's a couple, I think along that too is also being aware of what you can do or what other people on your team can do. So one of my favorite things I've been thinking about lately is, okay, we can help clients with all these various skills, and something I know about Hannah is that she helps, or she can mold orthotics for shoes. So it's like, if ever I need someone to make custom orthotics, I got a girl. But it's just a fun layer that I know, and it's you know, getting to know your team and thinking about that. Jared, I see you've got your hand raised.
Yeah, I was just, and you've kind of hit on it, but in kind of maybe in a complete team, in very general sense, there's always going to be kind of like the doers, and there's the dreamers, and sometimes they might butt heads, or like the doers might start trying to like figure out how we're going to do this before the dreamers are done dreaming, or whatever. So it's important to just acknowledge, you know, I think I'm more of a doer, or I think I'm more of a dreamer.
Yeah.
Let's let the dreamers dream, maybe, and then maybe we need to let the doers kind of take over and advise on how can we actually do this and make this happen. So kind of that awareness of like how is my team wired, who's present in the room, who's, you know, how are we gonna do this, go from here to here too. So
Yeah, I love that. That's very wise insight. Mark?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, like, I feel like church creative staffs, it's expansion is the fun part, right? For a lot of people, and the ideation is the fun part, and the whiteboard sessions are the fun part. And it's really hard to sometimes be the bad guy in the session or in the room. Like contraction's not nearly as fun of an event or an activity, especially in a creative meeting, or like, you know, from wedding planning to Christmas Eve session planning or whatever.
Yeah.
And sometimes some people hold really near and dear to ideas. And I used to have this like problem where I thought, like, if we say it, that means we have to do it, which is like the most unhealthy thing ever, right? Because you're never going to get it all done. Then you're going to feel like a failure, or you're going to compromise unwillingly, right? And so I think you have to set the boundaries in the meeting just early on and say, we're going to do this first, we're going to do this. And I think what Jared just said is really important too. Like, you can't breathe in while breathing out. They happen sequentially. So setting time in a meeting for expansion, setting time in a meeting for contraction, and, you know, let's get more real now. I think those are really important. But yeah, it comes down to, like, it's not necessarily the most fun thing to do, but someone has to do it. And so if you agree on it on the front end, we're gonna contract eventually. I think that's really, really key.
Yeah.
Somewhere on the ArtSpeak site, maybe Kirk remembers where it is, there's a project calculator where you can enter all the things you want to do, and it spits out how many weeks. Is that still available, or is it gone?
I believe some update broke some part of that, but we'll try and get that
Okay.
up and running again. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, that's all I have. Thank you so much. Kirk, back to you.
Thank you, Libby. That was fantastic. Thank you for everything you do to help center clients and keep it positive along the way. And thank you so much for sharing. Thank you guys for being here. We'll see you in the channels.